Have you ever noticed that when you think you're ready to live on your own, you realize you need to surround yourself with people more than ever? Well, that's what Lori found out in the episode I'm going to talk about today. So join me as I, SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. Cue the intro. Today's episode is Garage Band. In this episode, Lori moves into the garage so she can get away from her bothersome siblings, but she quickly begins regretting her decision. This episode reminded me of that one episode of Full House where DJ wanted her own room because she was growing tired of how invasive her little sisters were getting, and she felt she was mature enough to be on her own as an adult, so to speak. That's a similar position Lori was in, and the plot is laid out in a similar manner to the Season 1 episode A Tale of Two Tables, with the main character thinking they're too old to be hanging around their younger siblings and wants to get away from them. As expected, Lori grows tired of having to put up with her siblings' shenanigans and begins enjoying her newfound independence in the garage. However, she soon becomes very bored and quite frightened of making this supposedly big change. She makes a few attempts to try and get out of the garage by trying to make the place look unlivable so she can move back into the house without having to admit she just didn't like living away from her family. Her plan and her reasoning behind it made sense because she made a big deal about wanting to move out, and she thought admitting she wasn't ready would be a sign of weakness. This episode was really good at developing Lori's character because, like most teenagers, they think they're full-grown adults who believe they can live on their own, but they come to find out they're not quite as ready as they thought they were. Lori's performance felt very genuine and relatable, so I definitely appreciated how she was handled from start to finish. Plus, her attempts to sabotage her own living arrangements were very clever and creative, and dearly creepy when her supposed ghost encounter was proven to be real. And let's not forget the moment when she bribed Mr. Grouse to run his lawnmower into the garage. He agrees to the plan, but accidentally puts the lawnmower in reverse and smashes into his garage instead. And he's like, "Can I still have your dad's lasagna?" That was pretty funny. It's at that point Lori confesses to what she had been trying to do, embraces her siblings for having missed being with them, and she happily returns to her old room as she learns to value what's really important in her life, which would be her family. Other than Lori, I really didn't care for most of her other siblings. One exception to this is Lana. She always wanted to sleep in Lori's bed, something that would constantly irritate her older sister, but that was because Lana had recurring nightmares, and her wanting to be with her big sister was just so adorable when you really think about it. However, it wasn't so adorable when Lana turned to Lenny for the same problem, because Lenny actually believed Lana's nightmare was real and was quick to barricade the bedroom door. I get how Lenny can be very simple-minded, but there's a difference between being naive and full-blown stupid. Lenny's facial expression when Lana first woke her up suggested she knew her little sister's nightmare wasn't real, and yet she still ended up thinking it was real anyway. If the writers wanted to sell the viewer on the idea of Lenny truly believing Lana's nightmare was real, she should have woken up with a more concerned look. Then there's Lisa being weird with wanting to remove Lincoln's internal organs and causing Lola to go bald. Although I will admit that wig Lola wore for the rest of the episode looked really good. And then there's the scene where Lincoln was stuck between a rock and a hard place when Luna and Luann were having a fight. They each threatened to beat up Lincoln if he didn't side with them, but I'm not even that annoyed with how they were presented because the Loud kids fighting among themselves is commonplace throughout the series. My problem with the scene is why Luna and Luann would turn to their younger brother to settle a dispute. Did they seriously not learn anything from his previous babysitter experience in No Guts, No Glory? Why not turn to Lenny, the second oldest? Then again, with how her character was portrayed, she would have been of no help whatsoever. They could have still turned to Lori because she was still coming into the house to do chores, but somehow their logic was they didn't want to bother her because she wanted to be on her own. I'm sorry, but no. If they're perfectly aware that their sister is within walking distance, they could have just gone out to the garage to talk to her about whatever problem they had, and then Lori could have simply sent them on their way. Better yet, the parents could have also been a viable option to put an end to any and all fighting, but for some reason everyone in this episode conveniently seems to forget that. Overall, this episode has its share of good moments and it has its share of bad moments. Lori came to realize that no matter how annoying her younger siblings can be and how much she longs to be away from them, she really can't live without them, and maybe she's not quite as ready to move out on her own as she once once thought. She grew a little bit as a character and learned to cherish the time she still has with her family, for better or worse. It's the same lesson of Lincoln learning to not be in such a hurry to grow up back in the first season, and the plot was handled just as good here despite how predictably similar the two stories are. Aside from my negatives regarding the younger siblings, it's still an all-around good Lori episode for the second season, and you'll enjoy the takeaway message it offers. With that said, I give GarageBand an 8 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of GarageBand. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.